There is a fifth dimension.
About the unknown.
Beyond that which is known to man.
The Garden of Thought.
The Babylon Project was our last best hope for peace.
Unexplained.
Mythologies.
This is the dimension of imagination. It is an area which we call...
The Garden of Thought with Jeff Lippman.
Eventually, our sun will grow cold and go out.
You're listening to something much bigger, something hidden in plain sight.
It won't just take us. It'll take Marilyn Monroe and Lao Tzu and Einstein. All of us was for nothing unless we go to the stars.
What you're about to learn will completely change the way you experience your mind, your thoughts, and yourself.
Let's make sure that history never forgets the name.
The Garden of Thought.
Welcome everyone to Garden of Thought, and this is our second visit with Ann Charles, author. Previously, we talked about her Deadwood series, and today we're talking about the Sight Dig series. She's a USA Today Bestselling author, and this is now a trilogy, and it's a very different set of stories from the Deadwood. This has taken us to the Yucatán Peninsula. Sounds a little Indiana Jones-ish. We'll see. So, hey, listen, thanks for coming back.
Thanks for having me on again.
Sure. So, for anyone who didn't hear the first show, hey, shame on you. No, welcome. We're I lost 20% of the audience and then found another 10%. So, we'll see where it is. I got a little political, and I still do sometimes. Anyway, but not in these shows, in my other show. But they're all in the same feed. Anyway, who cares? Tell us about yourself.
Ann Charles. I've been writing since, into the late 1990s, so let's not go that deep. Published in 2011 with the first book in my Deadwood series, which is long running. I'll be working on number 15 later this year.
Sheesh.
Currently working on the 7th book in my Jackrabbit Junction mystery series. Hope to have out later this summer. And just wrapping up the 3rd in the Dig Site mystery series, which is called Chewed Up by the Jungle. And as you said, it takes place in Yucatan, and it focuses on the Maya. Yes, Indiana Jones meets paranormal fun stuff, and I have fun in this series in that I've studied many of the dig sites down there, archaeology sites of the Maya, but I decided early on when I first started writing this series that I would create my own site for each book because I wanted to create the history that went with it. Rather than say, okay, we're sitting in Chichen Itza and everybody knows that history. I had more fun, and I figured I would have more fun creating sites that, again, using real history with what we know about the Maya, but then incorporating different elements into it to make it some fun fiction too.
Well, in order to create the history, you have to learn the history, and in order to create the sites, you probably have to learn something about the real sites and sort of geographically where they were and were not, and why cities are where they are, and things of that nature.
With the Maya, it makes a big difference if you choose the northern Yucatan versus the southern. It makes a difference, southern highlands versus the northern lowlands, because things happened, started off more in the highlands, in the south, and then moved, as drought and different things happened, wars, they moved further up towards like where Chichen Itza is, and the other sites up there. So it's a different time in the Maya history. So I really wanted to play with both. So I have some of the sites, dig site books set in the northern, and then I have this one as in the southern. So we're going back further in time as the series goes on. What happens
around what time period? I mean, are we in BC? Are we in AD?
So they're contemporary stories. First of all, it's an archaeologist, photojournalist team going in, supernatural. It's all happening contemporary. But the sites we're talking about, the most recent one is more like late BC, early AD. So that time period, back when Calakmul is fighting with Tikal and Lenges down there involved. So it's more of the old times when there was some serious battling for centuries going on between the two major cities, which was Tikal and Calakmul. So yeah, it's playing with what happened, but then also going back even farther, I use a lot of the Maya mythology. So using some of their gods, the underworld, and the different layers that are in the Maya mythology. So I also have to study that to learn the different purposes of like Chakmul and the different gods of the time and what the theories were for that time period. So it does, this series takes me the longest to write a book because I spend so much time researching and then building the history of the site, trying to make it accurate for the time being and where the location is, then studying the mythology, bringing all that in to play as well, and then creating the contemporary fiction of the dig site and what's happening around that. So these books, where I can a lot of times write, start to finish from plotting to end, be done in like 3 to 4 months. These books take me 6+ because I just really, I'm slow when it comes out because I don't want to bugger it up. I want it to feel like if you're an archaeologist or if you're into the history of, Mesoamerica or any of that stuff, you feel like this wasn't just thrown together to make it work. This has some depth with what we know currently, and then adding some fun storytelling on top of it.
What sources did you use to research? Like for instance, I know Dr. Ed Barnhart. He's been on the show a bunch of times. He's a Mayanist. Did you consult with him or read his books, or where do you start when something that's basically foreign to us? The mythologies are foreign to us. The geographies are foreign to us. I mean, Yucatan to most Americans is Cancun, and that's sort of the beginning and the end of it. So what sources did you use?
So I have a multitude of sources. I have some books. I have to read books on archaeology and what's currently going on, like LIDAR, for example. The radar that they can now go over fly over and go through the trees and actually see the structures on the ground. So that is really advanced as I started this series.
Also underground in some cases. It's almost like, some sort of combination of photographs and x-rays.
Right. So including that too, I have to research what are they finding, what are they seeing, how's this work, what's the time frame? And then also, what are archaeology practices? And those have changed over time. So I have books on archaeology, morals, ethics. I read a book from Craig Childs, I believe it is, a wonderful book. And the essence of that book is who owns the past. And over time, if you think different archaeologists have gone and pulled stuff, but then it ends up, like the 3 main doctrines of the Maya that are left, the codices, they're in Germany, London, and somewhere else, England and somewhere else back there, France, because they were taken.
Right.
And really, do they belong over there, or do they belong with the Mayan people that are still alive and going? The descendants are still there. They're building the language again, or, relearning the language. They're teaching their kids. They're trying to bring their culture back up to what it was. So who should have those original books from their history? Who should, and you can do that with everything. Who owns the Egypt, the history? Who gets to have that? So books like that come into play. So I read so I can give my characters some depth. They're not just down there, playing Indiana Jones. There's there's arguments, there's discussions. Should we touch this? Should we leave it in situ? Where it's at, where you found it, because leave it for some future person to come through with better technology, can maybe figure this out better than we are. If we disturb it, we've ruined, how it was left, which a lot of times tells a story too, why it was left where it was and so forth. So I research all that, and then we get into the Maya. And there are so many wonderful National Geographic shows, history shows. You just go onto YouTube and you start digging it, and there's many wonderful shows with archaeologists who are working down there. And they give you different takes if you want to talk about the cenotes, which are the holes, the water. There's not a lot of running water in northern Yucatan, like rivers and that. It's all under the ground because of the big uplift, which I do believe comes from when couple things I've seen through the asteroid hit, it lifted up the limestone, ground, lifted it up high, and now all their water's down low, so they use these cenotes as big wells. You can go down there, you can swim in them if you want now. There's all kinds of tourists pulled up around these. But so going into that, which is kind of like the geology.
I once swim down there. There's Godzillas down there.
Physical geography, geology, taking all that into account. Climate is huge in this story. The heat, the humidity plays a big part. It's really hot down there. And you sweat all the time. And if you're not used to that, it can, be really wearing. So it's just all this wonderful stuff, the flora, the fauna, things are poisonous. There's dangerous animals. There's snakes galore. It's so fun to build this world, incorporating what's real, but then adding a layer of fiction over the top. And of course, the Maya mythology, I do a lot of reading online of different things about, from horoscopes that they used to have, to the calendar, to their belief system. There's books I've read.
Can we talk about that for a little bit? Can we talk about just generally the pantheon of the Mayan gods, at least with the groups that you were talking about?
Sure, sorry. I'm not sure where you want me to start, but
the great creator.
My brain's a little cloudy because, like I said, I'm just coming off 2+ weeks of sickness, and it's been a while since I've been in that. It was last fall when I was really digging in. But the Maya have the heaven, the earth, and the underworld, with the many mythological beings that existed in each, sun god, the different players, and of course, different regions of the area. If you go up into Guatemala, they have slightly different beliefs than they might have had, or than they did have, in northern Yucatan. Right. So you have to keep that in mind too. Different players, different purposes. Some sites are really into the rain god. Others are into like the Snake King. Calakmul's dynasty is more the snake. I can't think of their name, but there's more to do with snakes was in their name and what they did. But then again, in that area, there's a lot more of the lovely reptiles, dangerous and deadly. So it's really interesting. It's not like Christianity's heaven and hell. It's not the same. Their heavens, they're present, and their underworld. It's different. They do have, more scary stuff in the underworld. And like one thing, sorry, there's just so much. And my kids get so tired of hearing all this. And my poor husband listens to it right along with me.
Well, your good friend Jeff doesn't.
So you die in the Maya world.
Well, that's how you start. I die. Okay, fine.
Right, you die. And you go from the earth, level. And you have to, unless you die in battle, I think there's some sacrifices and childbearing, if you die in childbirth.
Worthy deaths.
Those get you tickets up into the...
like Valhalla.
Layers. I think there's 9 layers of the Maya heavens.
That's not unusual. 9.
Normal, me and you just scroll past. You have to go through the 13 levels of the underworld, and I'm trying in my brain to go. It's 13 underworld, 9 heavens, and I want to make sure because I'm going to get called on.
Okay, well, you make sure, and don't assume I'm just going to go to old age. I still have time to die on my shield with my sword in my hand.
I did it wrong. I knew it. It was 13 levels of the heavens, 9 levels of the underworld.
See, I had a feeling 13 was good. I didn't know the 9 was bad, but I know that like 13 is their zodiac, and there's 13 steps on each level of the step pyramids to get to 52.
Right. So sorry about that.
It's okay.
But yes, so Xibalba, the Maya underworld, is divided into 9 levels, and you have to. The Lords of the Night reside in each level. Different ones are in different levels. You have to make the travel through the levels of the underworld to make it back up to the heavens. So everyday Joe has to travel this, and it's harrowing. And it's not like, oh, your eternal hell and the devil and the heat. It's not like that. They have different Maya gods in the underworld.
It's like Dante's Inferno, but each level is its different set of torments and tortures and misfortune.
Exactly.
Is there any association with the number 9? I mean, clearly there is. Do you know what the association with the number 9 and the underworld is? I mean, in modern times we could say it's the number of planets, but they didn't know the number of planets, or maybe they did. I'm not sure.
They were there. They knew the heavens like nobody's business. If you look at the Maya calendars and take El Castillo at Chichen Itza, the big pyramid. That's one of the 7 wonders of the New World. You've seen maybe the pictures during the solstice, when the serpent comes down the pyramid. It's a play of shadows and stuff. It only happens during the March and September solstice. And the way the shadows work, the way they built the pyramid, is that when you look at the grand steps, the big steps, there's the shadows make it so the serpent's body comes down, and then at the bottom they have these. I'm doing it visually, and I know we're not visual. They have these serpent heads coming out the bottom. They have these large heads, and so it makes a serpent coming down. Think about lining up a pyramid that huge to match just perfectly 2 times a year. It's going to happen. This thing's going to do this.
Yeah, you got to plan that for a long time.
They had to know exactly where the sun was coming up, when it was coming. Venus played a big part in their mythology. We were recently down there, and there's the observatory on the Chichen Itza archaeology site, and they lined up the window in the upper observatory, so at certain times of the year Venus comes right through it. You can stand and see Venus right there, shining right through it. So they lined up things to meet the heavens. They lined buildings certain ways to please the gods in the heavens, and they were really into the stars and using that to kind of predict what was coming, which is why their calendars go so far back and so far forward, and they're so right on time. They had it down, and I always joke that they didn't have Netflix, and video games, so your time was spent.
Neither did we.
Doing productive things. Well, and we did a lot of stuff.
Well, we did have video games too. It's not true.
Atari.
We had Atari and Intellivision, Nintendo, and other things that are long gone. Castle Wolfenstein on the original Mac.
Right. We had all that. So one of the things I had read during researching this book too that was of interest is the shaman would come when the babies were born, and based on their date of birth, using their astrology, they would say, "This is the child's sign." And this is his purpose or her purpose in life, and this is what they will be. So if they came, this is your sign. You will be either a writer, a creator of some sort, an artist, something like that. Well, then from babyhood, you were trained in that field, and that is what you did. And so, if you think about all they accomplished, if you had the purpose from as long as you could remember, I'm supposed to be a writer. I'm supposed to be, pounding, on the temple walls, making, glyphs. You would train for that, and you would have this purpose, and you would be really good at it by the time you're, in your teens, because this is what you do.
Right.
And so
they had great vocational training there.
Yes, and one of the tour guides that is Maya, and we were walking around talking about stuff, and I kept driving. I was picking at his brain constantly. And he said, yeah, that's why the Maya accomplished so much, is that this is your purpose. This is what you'll do, you know? And it wasn't like you reached 18 and said, well, I don't know what to do, where I should study. And then you wait till 30 to finally lock it down, and then you start. They started early, so they...
Pretty good chance you were dead at 30, so...
Right, so you had to start young, too. And it was interesting, and I said to him, what, you know, did you have this happen? Did it happen to you, your family, and tell what you know? And he said, yes, actually, and my purpose was communicating and being, you know, facilitating that with people. And he goes, he went to school for archaeology, and he goes, and now this is what I enjoy doing, is sharing, you know, on tours with people and explaining to them this history and continually learning. So it's just an interesting thought, as, you know, we do love our freedom, you know, and the ability to choose what you want to do as you age. But how would that have changed if we knew, you know, from childhood, if some priest, someone came to your house and said, this is what this person will be, and then your parents pushed you towards that? Would it? I don't know.
I don't either.
It's really, it's so different from what we deal with now, what we are exposed to as children, that it's fun to...
Was it sort of organized? Did you do what your father did? If a family had 3 kids, was like the first one a farmer, the second one a warrior, and the third one, you know, an artisan, you know, or a priest? You know, was there anything like that, or was it more based on the astrology or potluck, or did you bribe the priests?
From what I read, it based on your date, time of birth, and you know, their whole, like I said, their equivalent of our North astrology. They have Mayan astrology too, but it's different than what we have. The whole Virgo, Leo, all that kind of stuff.
What is their what's their zodiac? I mean, is it? It's not 12 signs, right? It would be 13 or maybe more. And
I think there's 20. I have to look this up because, like I said, it's been months and travels and stuff. There's 20. I was going to say there's 20, but I didn't want to screw up again. There's 20 different Mayan signs, and they change daily. Instead of a month, you know, ish that we have, these things change daily. So if you're born on this date, this, you know, of the month, this, even though your brother, your sibling could be born a year later at the same date, they're going to have a different sign most likely because it switches, you know. So they take that into account. I mean, it played such a role in their future, in the person, and what they were shown to do, what they were trained to do from the start.
So 20 into 360 is 18. So did they have 18 months then for 20 signs in the day? Did they even have the concept of month?
Maya calendar, they didn't.
Or am I just doing math for math's sake, which is entirely possible?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember how many months in the Maya there were.
Because 20 doesn't really correspond to anything. I mean, you know,
but there were 13. There's 13 months in the Maya calendar.
Right, because it's the moon. It's the moon phases.
Right. So, but then they had 20 different signs, and you can see why it switched day to day. It changed.
Right. That's why I'm trying to figure out if there's any correspondence, and then I just did into. But most of my knowledge, other than from guests, which, you know, at least 75% of what a guest tells me goes in 1 year, I remember for 3 or 4 days, and then it's gone. The rest is from a book I read called Aztec, which Aztecs are not Mayans. So, but since they're in the general vicinity and sometimes cultures that are approximate sort of had similar beliefs, or at least at some point they adopted similar beliefs so they could each trade and, you know, speak the same language, so to speak. Not necessarily the same verbal language, but be on the same page. It was that book said that the year was 360 days, and they had 5 basically, you know, they called them dead days, but they were basically dead days of rest to get you to a solar cycle. That's why I use 360. Assuming everything in the book Aztec was close enough to write, whether that maps onto the Mayan experience is, you know, an entirely different question.
Well, if you go back into it and you look at who came first, The Maya came before the Aztecs.
Oh yeah, by a lot.
And so, like you said, yes, they adopt other cultures, other groups come through. They adopt what they like of a previous culture, and some stuff they don't. Just like the Maya have stuff that's from the Olmec, which were had more of a heyday prior to them. There's different other groups too down there that were prior. So yeah, everybody, and then on top of that, a lot of the leaders, that were in some of the Maya cities, came from different cultures. So you have a blending of, just like the kings and queens in Europe would switch around, now we're going to have you marry a German, let it strengthen our trade,
right,
and make this all good. The same thing happened then with different cultures down there. So you do have a blending. And that's why it's kind of fun as you start researching, if you ever dig into the Maya. You can start with the big ones, the big fancier ones up north that are all, one of the 7 New World Wonders, Chichen Itza El Castillo. But as you dig and go deeper, then you start seeing how things were, and you start to question, well, where did they come? Where did that come from? Was that Olmec? Was that another culture before them? And I really love the history of things to the south, like Guatemala in that era, because now we're getting in deep. Now we're not, it's post Spanish conquistadors coming in and influencing it. it's pre all that. So now you're getting a different type of people, a different cultural experience when you go between the south and the north. And what's really interesting now, so for years, Mexico has been making tourism money off, all these sites and whatnot, really bringing people in. It's getting more popular. But now Guatemala has opened up their doors more, and they have some really rich sites and things that, they're the early Maya, and they are finding under the trees with LiDAR all these, hundreds of small cities or, villages, and then smaller cities, and then some bigger stuff. And they're seeing the roads, they're seeing how it was all connected down there, and they're really starting to get tourism. So on a contemporary level, when it comes to tourism dollar, Mexico has got to, start upping its game to keep the tourists coming to them and get the tourist dollar to go against Guatemala, which is getting more and more people coming in because of the rich history they have. That has been, a lot of it hasn't been touched as much. Now they have had, black market where they, people have gone and stole from sites and stuff. But a lot of sites have been so buried in the jungle, and it's so treacherous to get to. They're not hit as often.
Easily lootable.
Yeah, you deal with cartel that have been down there, and some of the crime stuff that's a little bit more trouble. So, oh man, we could go on for hours, you and I, sitting there at a table and just talk. It's so fascinating to me. And then how it relates to modern, how the Maya civilization grew, war, battle, and then failing. They cut down so much of the trees, the plaster they used on the buildings. I just read recently it took 20 trees, burning 20 trees to make 1 square meter of the plaster, the stucco coating they would put on their buildings. They really stuccoed it up and painted them and made them beautiful.
So this was not mud bricks. There was something.
No, well, they used limestone. They would cut, but to quarry for the buildings themselves. But the stucco itself, they would burn the limestone and then add stuff and make it into this, stucco that they would put on
to smooth it.
20 trees per square meter.
Yeah.
And these are big buildings and lots of them. So they would decimate forests. Now, one of the shows I recently watched said they tried to leave 30% of their trees as parks and stuff, but it wasn't enough. That wasn't enough to sustain in that environment with that soil type. So, yeah, they would start, the crops would fail, because they cut the trees down, for their microclimate would change.
Right.
They'd have droughts. And it really contributed to them, here are these rulers that are trying, we're in touch with the gods. We can make it rain if we just sacrifice this or we do this ceremony. Well, when that wasn't working, because the climate was changing, and then the people start questioning the rulers. Are you really one in one with, the rain god? Are you really in his ear or not?
Right.
Then they start killing the higher nobles and the rulers, the people do in rebellion. So it's just an incredible history that my family gets really tired of hearing about as I study and share. And time and again, I tell my kids, especially, they've been teenagers, they're getting out of that stage, but you should feel fortunate that you have this, because the Maya, had to deal with this. And they're like, oh my gosh, Mother, please.
Well, just wait until they point out to you how we're doing the same thing on a macro scale. And, just
comparisons are incredibly interesting to me. How this happened. They started as, early times, they were more about villages and groups, and they were working together more. But as that grew, and they started getting more people, and then we have to have more. Then, of course, greed comes in, and we have to have nobility that gets this, but the regular people don't. And then we have to have divine rulers, and we're the ones, we know we're in touch with the gods, and you peons just keep working in the fields and doing this. You have your role. The shaman came in and said that you're doing this, and then people start getting angry, and the rebellions start.
Right, and then they tell them that they could have a perfectly delightful meal for $3, and whatever the equivalent of $3 was.
Right.
Back
and then the city-states that evolved, like
which, by the way, that's exactly the Nutrisystem thing. By the way, the Nutrisystem for men, do not buy into it. The portions are tiny. It's basically what the agriculture secretary told you: eat a whole lot less and be hungry all the time. It's a nightmare.
Whenever I can lose weight, and it's getting harder the older I get. It's always like I've been hungry for months to reach this state.
Right. Well, I haven't, and that's because I've gotten fat. So it's perfectly fine. It's like everyone's doing that, posting their 2016 and 2026 pictures. Like I was like really, I was like 80 pounds lighter in 2016. It was like, no, thank you. I'm not interested in looking at that. So anyway, I say anyway a lot. I realized when I listen back to my shows, like I have certain crutch words, and anyway is one of them, and nobody cares about this, and whatnot. I think I got rid of whatnot, as I just said it twice. But
I'm with you. I'm with you. There's things I do. I hesitate because I want to think it through before I say stuff. So yeah, there's I have my little things as well.
Well, ours what normal people do, and those of us who are sort of broadcast, even if we're not professional broadcasters, one of the things you tell yourself early on is you don't want to say things like so you find other actual English equivalents for it, but it turns out they're just as big a crutches and oftentimes more syllables. But as we do that, let's transition into your book, actually. So let's and you can incorporate anything about the history and the mythology and the social structures and whatever's happening here. But let's talk a little bit about the book, and let's get into the paranormal aspects.
So, keeping in mind this series is action-adventure mixed with supernatural.
We like that.
And that's where learning the mythology and keeping, studying and incorporating it in comes to play.
The kids call that keeping it real.
Keeping it real. One of the things I read an article long ago about Jean Auel, Auel, the one that wrote Land of the Cave Bear. Yes. She's written some amazing stories, and she incorporated a lot that she researched into it. She was at standing in front of people talking.
Conference?
Sorry, my brain is just coming online. Yes, and she was the speaker, and it was two anthropologists and archaeologists, science books, and she told them, listen, and she's very successful at this point. If you would like to get more funding for your research, then you need to tell a good story with what you've learned about history and incorporate it and pull them in with your storytelling. And that will get people that are willing to put money into this to learn more. That was some article I read. So I'm not quoting, it was something I read, I'm not quoting her exactly, just to be clear. But that really rang with me at the time because I thought that's true. I learn more with history when you tell it to me in a story And maybe that's just my storyteller brain, but I've read a lot of, in college and different archaeology classes I've taken where it was pretty dry and it's a little hard to read. After
Well, back then, the scientific community would push back, and they'd want to tell you how tedious and how long it is and how careful you have to be with it. And now all the archaeologists have YouTube channels and podcasts themselves, and they're telling stories, and they incorporate in there, how you don't rush into and dig and things like that. Anyway, fun thing about the Clan of the Cave Bear, there was a movie made by it, and that's what gave the world Daryl Hannah. True little Jeff story. I met Daryl Hannah's father. I spoke with him for like an hour. Delightful man. Apparently, they were estranged. He died a couple of years ago, 2-3 years ago. I don't know if they ever got back, made up or not. But he was actually going to be a guest star in Garden Views. But he's like, Jeff, I think you misunderstand what I've done. I'm like, well, it sounds here like you were like a ship magnate. And he's like, no, I just invested in that and this, that. He's like, I thought it was like an Onassis story where, we're going to hear about international trade and tankers and how you do it. No, it wasn't that at all. So I'm like, yeah, you're right. But I still probably should have had him on just to have Daryl Hannah's dad on my show.
Interesting. Yeah. Hear some of the stories and yeah. That could be something.
Right. Sorry, I think I threw you off your ziggurat.
That's okay. So, incorporating this rich mythology, rich history, but having contemporary characters, contemporary, situations going on. Yet there are things, if you start to with the concept of what if Maya mythology is really based on real. I mean, some of us go, yeah, the gods, the evil, the bad gods, the good gods, whatever. But what if there was things that happened, that there were these creatures, these mixed, blended human, sometimes not human, mix of animals and gods, demons, all that stuff. What if they were real? And the Maya were dealing with them at the time and trying to, battle where needed, incorporate them into their fighting where needed, whatnot. So, if when I started this, I wanted to come at it as, that's why I wanted to make my own sites.
Like Narnia.
Right. I wanted to incorporate the history, everything I learned, so I could share that in what I think is really enjoyable, entertaining, interesting history. Share it with readers, but doing it in a way that would not make their eyes gloss over and put them to sleep. Reading the story. It would give them someone contemporary to laugh with. These books always have humor mixed in. Laugh, take the adventure, enjoy it from the nice air-conditioned room in the summer, heated room in the winter, and go into the jungle, sweat your buns off with the characters, and experience the discovery that comes with archaeology, and then the frustrations, too, when you can't figure out what the heck this means. So taking all that into consideration. Then we come, I wrote the first book, the second book, different sites each time, same characters, incorporating a few more, some of them go, some, come back, different things like that. So you feel comfortable with this crew by book 3, which is what, was just released. And the characters, and now we put them in even more harrowing situations, bigger mystery. What the heck is this place? Which is what
is there a continuity of like the plot twist? Like, is it like a Ring of Power, like Lord of the Rings, or is it something different, like the Indiana Jones? You have the Ark of the Covenant in one. You have the Crystal Skulls in another.
So the hero in this series, Quint Parker, he is a photojournalist that's come in book 1 for his own purposes to solve his own mystery. And then, of course, there's a little bit of romance where he falls. The head archaeologist is Dr. Angélica Garcia. Her father also is an archaeologist that is part of the crew and works with them. So it starts with, that's one of the continuity things is that relationship as it goes on. It's not just easy when you become a couple and you have very different careers. Life isn't just simply happily ever after. Power struggles, low-level relationship struggles, that kind of stuff going on. But at the same time, now we have Quint Parker there. And if you've read my Deadwood mystery series, which is also supernatural mixed with mystery and adventure, he is the sibling, the brother of Violet Parker, who stars in that series, and she has supernatural.
Yes, she does. I remember.
So he also has abilities, but they're different than her. I mean, her abilities come down the line through the females in their line. His are more tied to the male, and so he's experiencing it, but not knowing yet fully. He's getting an idea with each dig. What am I doing? I'm part of this. I'm causing some of this.
So are you telling me that, like, maybe 1,000 generations ago, their parents were, Zeus and took a human woman, and they have
It's not that level. And I don't want to go too much into the Deadwood background of the Deadwood series, but there's a deep mythology mix with humans. They have a male and a female, and I wrote about it in one of my short stories, what had happened. I wrote it for the Deadwood series. And it talks about the female and male, and it was back in the Dark Ages. It wasn't back that far.
Okay.
He had this ability, she had this, they blended, created kids, and go forth. And now their generations have the myriad of their abilities, partly mixed, partly still. The females are this, the males tend to have this. And so that's already in the Deadwood series. And now we've got the brother of Violet who has this ability. He's got this, and it's coming online as she grows stronger in hers. It's pulling him to light as well. It's bringing it on.
By the way, you just picked the song for the outro inadvertently. It's I've got the moves, you've got the motion. We get together, we'll be causing a commotion. So I don't know what the actual name of that song is, but I will find it.
That's perfect. So yes, my series have connection points. They are that way, but then they can be on their own too.
They're the same universe, but they can exist parallel.
Exactly. So this is Quint's stories mixed with archaeology, Maya lore, and all the stuff that goes with that. Adventure, it's a different flavor slightly from the Deadwood series.
Oh, sure.
But yet similar in that they are the same Anne Charles universe.
That's pretty cool. It's sort of like a Stephen King thing, except he's got his New England, and then there's the everywhere else kind of stuff to it. So yeah, and he had the shine. People had the shine, and it manifested differently in different folks, and but also there were vampires and ghosts and other things like that. So yeah, that sounds pretty cool. I think for the readers of your books, that's it's like fun, and I'm sure you put like Easter eggs in there intentionally. I bet you sometimes do it unconsciously as well, not even realizing that something was a callback to another or relates or is a clue for one of the other books or something.
Right. Yes, and I've had Quint in the Deadwood series show up very time, but I do have a timeline for all these. So the timeline for Deadwood is all pre this dig site. It's months, but we're all a little bit before. So Violet has come online sooner. And it's spurring Quint to come, her brother, because of this combination of the ties they have, And so I have a lot of readers that are like, oh my gosh, I cannot wait till you get Violet and Quint together. And he realizes what's going on more, and she does too. And they realize how they work together. The reason their ancestors got together is because they work together, because they each have this one that complements the other. And so that goes down through their line. But right now I have them apart, so they're each trying to deal with what they do without having the other, which makes a difference in the battles that they have to.
Well, like a pyramid, one day you can have them converge, and their stories can converge, and then they get tempted by the great evil of their powers. Are they going to be, the Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver when we first meet them? Or are they going to be Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver at the end of Age of Ultron?
Yeah, and the fun is, these don't start as hardcore supernatural stories. They start as mysteries. They're just humans trying to figure out, there's ghosts, there's weird things happening. But it starts out, I ease you into it so that it's not like slam or instant, And I haven't really, it's not vampires, it's not that kind of supernatural. We're dealing more with a lot of mythology and stuff like that. In the Deadwood series, there's a lot to do with German, European history and mythology that I pull in from different elements. Whereas this has more of the Mesoamerican stuff coming in. So yeah, it's really fun to slowly build these characters, these worlds, have the same characters, and you're watching. One of the key things I do when I plot and I write the stories is, how does this character grow in this book? How do they change? What change, whether it's a power or it's mental, it's character growth one way or the other. And then I have these overall arching plot lines that I have for each series, and I keep track of those. It's really tedious in my little world here, what I'm doing. It's just fun when it comes out on the page. But I do I'm a Virgo, and I do a lot of organizing and keeping track of all this kind of stuff, so that it's, when you read it as the reader and you binge them, which I hope you do because they're fun, it's much more seamless. You don't go, hey, wait, this happened in this one, and you said this. A lot of times it's more, you mentioned this in book 4, and you mentioned it again in 9. What's going to happen with this? And my readers that, they read these series over and over, which is awesome. I love that they love them that much.
So at what point are you going to approach, like, say, a Netflix and say, hey, I've got all this IP content, and you could have 2 series running parallel, which are related, but don't necessarily rely on each other, but sometimes they do. So you only need to make one of them a hit, because it will lead to the other one being a hit, and it will lead to future shows being a hit too. And, I'm, known by my readers, but, I'm still going on podcasts like that Schmuck Jeff's. So, I'm not that big a deal. So, you can get this at a reasonable price. So, come on now, and, I'll do like a Arnold Schwarzenegger back in the old days and take a royalty on the back end, and, and we'll bet on this together. What do you say?
Oh boy, you want to talk about, when you're an author, there's a lot of sharks in this world. There's a lot of people that are trying to, hey, we'll publish your book, we'll do this. Hey,
like in those cenotes, there's sharks there too.
We'll do all this stuff. And authors, many of us are constantly getting spammed and try to do this. Hey, we're having a book club, but you just have to pay this much for
right.
the star. And every year it's a new scam going through. And I'm back to when I'm getting all the we have a virus checker on your thing and it costs $4.97
right.
via PayPal. Now I'm back to those. I was like, oh, have you guys run out of new fodder to try to hit us with? There's a lot of that goes on, and when you become an author and you start talking about your copyrights and IP rights and all that, you really got to learn up and bone up on that, because you can sign a contract that you just really screwed yourself for the future. So keeping that in mind, I try to be careful, and I screwed up, but I do try to be careful going forward. Now let's talk about the shark-infested pool that is going, to the big screen or even the small screen. You really need a good, probably IP attorney. You need a good agent. You need all that. And I don't have that. And I, frankly, am just trying to keep up right now with the readers and the reader demand what they want. And I've often thought, yeah, that'd be really fun to explore that. But I'll stop writing for a while because it's going to take a lot. And I'm not good at juggling, right? Some authors write 3 books at once, and then they got this going and this, and I just think, wow, I'm amazed at your brain and the ability to do all this stuff. I just focus on one thing at a time. So it's me. I've not pursued that. It's just been, and in the last few years, I had my mom pass away. I had my dad almost pass away. I just had a lot of life stuff. Kids graduating high school, realizing, oh no, they're not going to be here much longer. They're going to go do their thing. I mean, they'll still be living. But
right. I have a good idea. Have one of your kids become an IP attorney, and have one of your kids become a literary agent.
I have so wanted that, but they are like, no, that's not mine.
I'm going to be a TikTok influencer.
I should have had a shaman come to them as babies and say, this is your purpose.
There you go. You learn nothing from your own work. Sorry.
I know. I mean, they want to do stuff very differently.
Like Led Zeppelin said, nobody's fault but yours.
I should have done it. So, yeah, anyway, maybe that's something for the future to consider. But at this point, I feel like I'm so slow. I used to write 3 books a year and have them out, and I've been down to 1 a year for the last couple of years with life. So this year, my goal is to get 2 to 3 books out again.
Yeah, but
what happens?
But stories also have to come to an end. I mean, characters have to finish their arcs. Otherwise, you become like Dan Brown. Not to say he hasn't had ridiculous success, but his books are terrible.
I don't think I've ever read a Dan Brown. I know the movie. I've seen. They've made movies, haven't they?
Sure. Yeah, they've been.
I just haven't read.
At least 2, and then one season TV show, and the Da Vinci Code was an okay movie. The other movies were sort of shitty. The TV show was sort of shitty.
I knew Da Vinci Code. I did watch that one.
Yeah.
Tom Hanks, right?
It sure did. Yeah, which is, I mean, an interesting bit of casting. Anyway, I guess it was the Ron Howard connection, though, and listen, you can always, if you cast Tom Hanks, you can count on Tom Hanks, but did not fit, I think, anyone's image of, what's the guy's name? Robert Langdon. What Robert Langdon was supposed to look like in any way, shape, or form. And it didn't achieve the miracle of, like, somehow Michael Keaton, who doesn't, he doesn't appear anything like a Batman appears, but somehow it worked.
He's an awesome Batman. I love him.
Everyone does, but he's not 6'2", 225. Built like a Olympic gymnast or whatever.
When my dad was in the hospital in ICU, and during that time, we had a guy come in, and his job was to help. If Dad did okay and made it through, which he did, help him move to transition to the next lower level hospital and stuff like that. He looked like Michael Keaton, and he sounded like Michael Keaton. And I said to him, he was very friendly and nice, and I said, I'm sure you've been told you look like Michael Keaton and sound like him. He goes, yeah, I've heard that a time or two. And we finished up, and right before he left, he said, is there anything else I can do for you? And I said, yes, please say, I am Batman. Just like Michael. And he did, and it was so funny. And he was perfect. You could tell he'd done this.
Yeah, I'm sure by now he's used all the jokes. He's probably said, "Oh, I am Michael Keaton. I'm like the 17th month of Multiplicity, and they had nothing to do with me after the movie." Or I mean, what I would ask him to say is, I'd give him a poker for your fireplace and say, "You want to get crazy? Let's get crazy." But it's probably not a good idea to give someone a fire poker and tell them to get crazy. So so much for my breath. Yours, I am Batman, probably makes a better choice. All right, well, let's talk a little bit about where they can find your books and how they buy them and how they follow and support you in other ways, so they can become of the whole Ann Charles Parker family universe.
So you can always go to my website first and foremost, www.anncharles.com. It's just A-N-N. There's no E on Ann, so less letters to spell.
That's
you can
good.
Start there. You can find the books. You can see where to purchase them. You can go on to Goodreads, Amazon, Barnes & Noble. You can check out reviews of everything. What people like, what people don't like. And I often tell people, maybe check out some of those bad reviews, because they'll say, "Oh, she cusses." In her book, she uses language, profanity, and sometimes there's sex on the page.
Ooh.
So yeah, find out what they say both ways, what they love, but be careful, because they will give away stuff, of course.
Sure, spoilers.
And they're available in print. They're available as ebooks. They're available as audiobooks. The newest one, we are going to be doing the audiobook this spring. I'll be doing a Kickstarter to start it up. We tried that with the last book in the Undertaker series. I co-write with my husband, and it was successful. Doing the audiobook as a Kickstarter, which is a lot of fun. We offer some really cool prizes that are unique only to the Kickstarter. So we'll be doing that with Chewed Up and have some really awesome promo stuff. My brother is our illustrator, cover artist, so I have access to some amazing real art. This is not AI. This is the real deal. And we'll use that to make some really cool, fun stuff that you can have. So anyway, there you go. You can find me all over the place. I'm like a bad disease that way.
Great. You should take the E out of Charles and then be really original.
Right? No silent E's. No silent E's here.
That's right. To get rid of all the E's are gone. This is an anti-E only the most common letter,
Right.
or at least now.
And these books are not quick. I write long books. They're usually 100K to 130K. I wish I wrote short books faster because I'd go quicker, but my brain tells a story that's 120K long, easy, and that's the way it goes.
What's that translate to in pages?
Well, it depends what size. I mean, like if you get a trade paperback, which we have.
Yeah, regular paperback.
Like the one, it's looking like sorry, I have to look. 370?
370. Yeah, so yeah.
That's a bigger trade book. So it's hours of reading. I think it's like 8 to 10 hours, depending how fast you read. I used to be able to read 60K and read in 4 hours, but these things, I always think, I'm going to get through these books quick when I go to reread them and go through them again, and get ready to write the next one. It takes me a day plus.
Well, you're always going to be your own harshest critic. You're also going to scrutinize the details. You're also going to remember that you wrote something because it probably ties into something you need to remember for the next book, or give you another idea for a different rivulet to go down or not go down. You say,
and that's key to remember. What you made me think of this is that these are not, Nancy Drew, Agatha Christie's one book is one story.
It's not an anthology. It's the same characters with an ongoing story. So you finish book 1, book 2, we're going to pick up, a short time later, same characters, different situation, different story question. Character growth happens because that's really important to me. These are character-driven stories. The location's big and that plays a part, but it's really about how these characters go through and deal with the challenges. Because I think there's so much humor, excitement, all that is so key to telling a story, not just location for me. All right, well, cheap plug time from me. For those of you who want to get more into Mayan mythology and history, I have shows with Ed Barnhart, I have shows with Professor John Hoops, I have shows with Robert Beto, and I have shows with some shamans and other teachers, and so if you look at the catalog and peruse it, you will find all of those things, probably some of them twice, but from different perspectives. One might be a mythologist, one might be an archaeologist. So in any event, so you can check that stuff out. And if you're here by accident, great. If you're here because you're a fan of Anne No E, Charles soon to be No E, that's even better. Then that's a success. Welcome. This is the Garden of Thought. If you simply subscribe to the Garden of Thought wherever your audio podcast can be found, you'll get 2 to 3 shows a week, including one of not the original, but probably the best known person who sort of said that, these things are real and they existed in our timeline behind us, and Eric Von Daniken. So the bonus episode where we talked about his life and death with my friend from 3rd grade on, Jerry Restivo, and Professor John Hoops, which is who only went to Yale and Harvard and has been at the University of Kansas for the last 30 years teaching, and me and Joey Restivo. So, where else are you going to get stuff like that? Nowhere. And also, this week I published a show with me and author, contrarian, thinker, content creator, Playboy model, former professional wrestler, WCW Nitro Girl, and in the Carmen Electra Football League, April Hunter. And we talked about the number 13, which is why I'm so versed on 13 right now, which is good that it came up, and my old friend Ophiuchus. So anyway, all I'm trying to say is that there's a lot of variety there, and it's maybe the same variety as Joe Rogan, but certainly not the same vibe, if that's what you're looking for. Anyway, thanks very much. You already know that you're hearing the song. I don't know the name of it, but we all know the chorus. And if you don't, you will, and you'll never forget it. Thank you very much to Ann Charles for being here once again. And thanks to your publicist for putting this together again. He's doing his job, so we always want to give him a little shout out without saying his name, because he's the publicist. He's here to publicize you, not him.
Thank you so much for having me on. You're so perfect.
Aw, thank you. Ma, you hear that?